Hey y'all, so I am back with part 4 of Kamala be lying. If you have not seen parts 1 through 3, I recommend you go see parts 1 through 3. If you are confused, I have taken it upon myself to fact check everything Kamala said at the presidential debate since the moderators chose to be biased. So we are on law number 18. So in 2020, she said she made it clear she wouldn't ban fracking and that she has not banned it since she has been VP. She said she was the tie-breaking vote on the bill that opened new leases for fracking. And she said she wants to invest in new diverse sources of energy to stop our dependence on foreign oil. Now, if you don't know what fracking is, it is also known as hydraulic fracturing, where fracking fluid, consisting of mostly sand and water, is used to extract natural gas from underground. This process has been around for like 70 years. However, many environmental groups oppose the process for contamination purposes, saying it pollutes our water and our air. Now, the fracking solution does contain chemicals and does contribute to air pollution. However, the chemical content is less than 1%, and there has been no proven cases of water pollution. Kamala was, and still is, one of those environmentalists who opposes fracking. Despite her new claims of being in favor of it, she has repeatedly come out against it. As we know, she and Biden opposed fracking back in 2019.
Would there be any place for fossil fuels, including coal and fracking, in a Biden administration?
No, we would work it out. No ability for the oil industry to continue to drill, period. Ends.
Question, I'm in favor of banning fracking. So, yeah, and starting with what we can do on day one around public lands.
She co-sponsored AOC's Green New Deal, and she has pledged to take on big oil, which has led her to suing oil and gas companies, and she even sued the Obama administration in 2016 for their fracking plans. She boasts about being the breaking vote that opens new leases on fracking, but fracking was not the main focus on that bill. It was a small part of the full IRA, and those policies were inserted by Joe Manchin, who says that he had been getting pushback from Congress. So, is she really in support of fracking, or did she want to pass this bill quickly and realize she was going to have to give and take in order to do so? And she knows you can't win an election without Pennsylvania, and you won't win Pennsylvania without supporting fracking. Many environmental groups were displeased with Harris backtracking on her ideals, much as they were when Biden did it. However, they are choosing not to press her on the issues because they don't want to sabotage her campaign. And the bigger focus is defeating Donald Trump. Kamala is lying about her position on fracking and will turn on oil and gas if she is given the power to do so. Law number 19. Trump was indicted and impeached for inciting a violent mob, which led to 140 law enforcement officers being hurt, and some died on that day, and told Proud Boys to stand back and stand by. We have debunked this. Trump was not convicted of inciting a riot on January 6. However, it is true that many people were hurt, including 140 law enforcement agents. But it is not true that they died on that day. As days passed, unfortunately, we did lose some of those officers. However, we lost them to a stroke, and others committed suicide. As far as the Proud Boys, Trump made it clear that he has no ties to the Proud Boys and doesn't even know the organization personally, and told them to stand back and stand by so officers can do their job.
I don't know who the Proud Boys are. I mean, you'll have to give me a definition because I really don't know who they are. I can only say they have to stand down, let law enforcement do their work. Just stand by. Look, law enforcement will do their work. They're going to stand down. They have to stand down. Everybody. They have to stand, whatever group you're talking about, let law enforcement do the work.
Even one of the chapter leaders of Proud Boys said they knew what Trump meant.
What does stand back and stand by mean?
To me, I think the most important thing was stand back, right?
What did that mean?
So to me, that meant, let police do their job.
Law number 20. She said that the Charlottesville mob was spewing hate, and the president said it was fine people on both sides. Now, this has been debunked multiple times, as well as on many different media outlets, yet she still is allowed to say it. Talk about turning the page on the same old rhetoric, yet she still used this lie. Trump clearly made the distinction on who he was talking about when he said there was good people on both sides, and made it clear that he was not talking about the neo-Nazis.
And you had some very bad people in that group, but you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. But you know what? It's fine. You're changing history, you're changing culture, and you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis.
But it is funny that in the middle of a war, blood in the streets, and Hamas is running rampant, and what does Biden say?
Those protesters out in the street, they have a point. A lot of innocent people are being killed on both sides.
He also says he condemns the anti-Semitic protests, but he also condemns those who don't understand what's going on with the Palestinians.
You condemn the anti-Semitic protests on college campuses.
I condemn the anti-Semitic protests. That's why I've set up a program to deal with that. I also condemn those who don't understand what's going on with the Palestinians.
So is that not the same as saying there's good on both sides, fine people on both sides? Somebody please help me understand the difference. Law number 21. She said that there will be a bloodbath if the outcome of this election is not to Trump's liking. Lady, Google is free. This is not true. He said that there will be a bloodbath in the automotive industry and for our auto workers because of Biden's poor policies.
Let me tell you something to China. If you're listening, President Xi, those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us. No, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole. That's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it. But they're not going to sell those cars.
Law number 22. Kamala says she has always supported Israel. Now, if this is the truth, why is it that she's always surrounding herself with those who don't? Kamala has close relationships with organizations like Council on American Islamic Relations, aka CAR, writing love notes of her own, showing support on their anniversary, and applauding them for the work they have done. Hosting the organization while a senator in California, and they too returned the favor and donated to her Senate campaign in 2016. However, a federal judge has found the organization guilty of funding the terrorist group Hamas around $12 million. And the director has come out saying he was happy about the war that broke out on October 7th. And Israel doesn't have a right to defend themselves.
The people of Gaza only decided to break the siege, the walls of the concentration camp, on October 7th. And yes, I was happy to see people breaking the siege. And yes, the people of Gaza have the right to self-defense, have the right to defend themselves. And yes, Israel as an occupying power does not have that right to self-defense.
She's being advised on national security by Phil Gordon, who was under investigation for being connected to Ariane Tabatabai, who was accused of being an Iranian spy with ties to the IEI to expand their initiatives in the U.S. She picked Tim Walz as her running mate, and Tim also has a history of supporting anti-Israel leaders such as Azad Zaman, donating to his organization, Muslim American Society of Minnesota, and calling him a master teacher.
First of all, say thank you to Imam. I am a teacher, so when I see a master teacher, I know it.
Azad Zaman, who celebrates Hitler and also expressed his happiness about the Hamas attacks on October 7th, as well as giving substantial grant money to the IANA, which later came out was being funneled to support the Islamic Heritage Revival Society, an organization that the U.S. has sanctioned and deemed a terrorist group for their ties in Al-Qaeda. But you support Israel? Law 23. Donald Trump said Putin can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. He said the Ukraine invasion was brilliant. Again, This is lacking context. Trump pointed out that many NATO nations are not acting like allies. They are acting like freeloaders and benefiting off the U.S.'s defense and are not keeping to the agreement to invest the equivalent of at least 2% of their gross domestic product on defense, and warned them 7 years ago that the U.S. was not going to continue to protect NATO for the free.
I have been very, very direct with Secretary Stoltenberg and members of the alliance in saying that NATO members must finally contribute their fair share and meet their financial obligations. But 23 of the 28 member nations are still not paying what they should be paying and what they are supposed to be paying for their defense. This is not fair to the people and taxpayers of the United States. If all NATO members had spent just 2% of their GDP on defense last year, we would have had another $119 billion for our collective defense and for the financing of additional NATO reserves.
He said,
one of the presidents of a big country stood up and said, well, sir, if we don't pay and we're attacked by Russia, will you protect us? I said, you didn't pay? You're delinquent? He said, yes, let's say that happened. No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want. You got to pay. You got to pay your bill.
And I absolutely agree. Law number 27. She said that Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. Now, hold up. Is she talking about the same Trump that moved the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem? The same Trump that created peace agreements among nations and repaired relationships abroad? Is she talking about the same Trump that stopped providing funds to Pakistan and that put sanctions on China? The same Trump that encouraged NATO allies to strengthen their defense? Is she talking about the same Trump that rebuilt our military and strengthened immigration policies that properly secured our borders? She can't be talking about that Trump. She can't be.